Are you ready for a fictional history lesson of the entire Toaru universe? With this knowledge of one of the most dense worlds in the entirety of anime, manga, and light novels, you're guaranteed to be loved at parties. Trust me. Let's jump right to the beginning. We don't know how the universe of Toaru was created or how old it actually is, but it's safe to say it's probably older than numbers can count, considering how many times the space-time continuum has been messed up with. But more on that later. In this primitive state, the universe was known as the Pure World, a purely scientific world. Clues in the name, meaning only science was recognized, with no religions or myths to speak of. The first humans of the Pure World all had free will, equal opportunities in life, with no predetermined events which would have influenced their fates. A mysterious being known as Aiwas existed in this universe, who was a higher dimensional entity classified as a secret chief. Aiwas was composed of a mysterious type of energy known as aim or an involuntary movement. It is unclear what sort of role Aiwas had at the time of the Pure World, or what the other secret chiefs were doing at the time, or where they came from. But listen, I can only say what we do know at the time this video was recorded. Some of the humans on Earth began to manifest supernatural powers due to external factors in their environment, which influenced their brains in a way where they could perceive reality in an entirely different format. These humans were known as the first espers, aka gemstones. In fact, they were even passively producing the energy that Aiwas was formed of. The gemstones were regarded as the most talented individuals of their time, since they didn't exactly have to work hard to get their powers. The fact that some people were special and others were judged as talentless made the ones who weren't gemstones jealous, as they desired power for themselves. These envious humans learned that all living things actually have a special power source inside them, known as mana, as well as the earth itself via connective currents under the crust, known as ley lines. By learning to use these and bring forth this inner power, they were able to cast magic, with the power of the gemstones being their inspiration for their spells, making them the first ever magicians. The magicians were able to experiment and combine their knowledge to become even stronger, proving that the talentless could compete and even surpass the talented. Eventually, magic overthrew the gemstones and science, as there were simply way more ordinary people than there were gemstones, and gemstones themselves couldn't learn magic, due to it being a forbidden practice. As such, the world became dominated by what became the magic side, as science fell into obscurity. Some magicians also managed to master their craft and die in ritualistic manners, allowing them to ascend to godhood, becoming the first magic gods, as they were able to alter the very fabric of the universe and reality itself. This resulted in the creation of many phases or layers of reality overlapping the pure world like layers of paint on a blank canvas. And with so many of these phases, Aiwas was then unable to manifest himself fully in the world anymore, as his power drastically decreased. Different realms from religions, mythologies, and legends were created, as phases such as the Christian heaven and hell, Asgard, Valhalla, and many more came into existence. As the power of the magic gods was too much for the physical world to handle, they dwelled in a special phase separate from the physical world, which was a non-existent dimension known as the Hidden World. Eventually, the magic gods agreed not to tamper with the world anymore, as they could not agree amongst themselves about what direction they should take it in. Therefore, they decided they would let the world play out in its natural course. Thousands of years before the start of Index, a Norse magician known as Ophinus became a god, and inspired the legend of Odin and Norse mythology, as she gouged out her right eye and threw it into a lake, and lastly hanging herself from a tree to gain her new immortal body. She then proceeded to tamper with reality, as the other magic gods had once done, but then regretted her actions as she forgot what her original world was like and was unable to create it. Consequently, Ophinus then revoked her status as a god. Now let's move on to the current phase, or the reality which Index takes place. Since the story occurs in a parallel world, very similar to our own, human history in the current phase is mostly the exact same as the history of the real world, with a magical and scientific twist, of course. The first era of humanity, according to Iwaz, was the Aeon of Isis, where humanity gravitated towards polytheistic religions and myths, believing in multiple gods or spirits, with the rise of pagan groups starting from ancient times. This included Norse, Egyptian, Greek, Shinto mythology, amongst many more. Followers of these religions would often also be magicians, using the legends of their own faith to channel mana and perform spells. Magicians all had their individual dreams and goals, but would often join with other practitioners who shared a common faith and interests. These groups are known as magic cabals. The next age of humanity which would follow was the Aeon of Osiris, which was the rise and dominance of the monotheistic faiths and the decline of pagan magicians. This included Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, but it would be the Christian faith that would establish itself as the dominant force in the magic side of the world. The magical tree of Sephiroth, a metaphysical concept which divides humans from the angels and God, came under attack from an unknown force, perhaps Lucifer or the devil, but due to the sacrifice of the second Adam, aka Jesus Christ, baby, the Sephiroth was protected as Jesus supposedly ascended to heaven after his resurrection. One of Jesus' disciples, known as Saint Peter, forms the Roman Catholic Church, where his fellow Christians eventually become the dominant magic organization in Europe and later the entire world. The Russian Orthodox Church is also formed, and with the rise of Protestantism, thanks to the Reformation, Henry VIII of England forms the Anglican Church in 1534, which completes our Holy Trinity of the three main churches in Index. The churches pretty much agreed that magic should be kept as a secret to outsiders and normal people. At an unknown date, the four elements of magic, fire, water, earth, and wind, were distorted. And no, this isn't because they were waiting for the next avatar. It is unclear what caused the distortion, but the four archangels of Christianity had their elements swapped around. But the extent of this would not be known to the magic side until the Angel Fall arc. Christianity helped inspire other magicians to start their own magic cabals and belief systems. In 16th century Elizabethan England, the occultists John Dee and Edward Kelly introduced Enochian magic to the world after seemingly discovering the existence of a higher dimensional great demon known as Choronzon, who lurks in what is known as the Abyss, a void located in the Tree of Sephiroth, with her purpose being the guardian that prevents humans from ascending the tree to gain knowledge. More gatekeeping, but her other purpose is the total destruction and reset of the universe. I sure hope no one summons her later on. Later in the 17th century, the German abbot Johann Valentin André became the founder of the Rosicrucian movement, a new magical movement who was inspired by both Christianity and other occult myths. Johann helped form the legend of Christian Rosenkreuz, a saint-like figure who traveled the world, healing people, and being a genuinely wholesome dude. One Rosicrucian temple located in Nuremberg, Germany, would inspire the formation of the greatest magic cabal in history, known as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Formed in the late 19th century, one of the three founders, William Wynne Westcott, allegedly received a letter from the head of the Nuremberg temple, known as Anna Sprengel, suggesting he should form a new temple in London, giving him the prestige to impress his contemporaries. But it's unclear whether William did forge the letter or it was the real deal. Samuel Liddell McGregor Mathers, another co-founder, managed to acquire a mysterious spiritual item from a magic side group known as the Wandering Treasure Keepers. It was an arrow, which used to be the arm of a saint, known as Imagine Breaker. Imagine Breaker is not only a reference point of the universe with the power to remove phases, it also represents the hopes and dreams of magicians, born from the collective subconscious thoughts of magicians. It also protects its users from what is known as sparks and spray from the phases, which cause predetermined events as a consequence of magic. Mathers stored the arrow at the London Temple, and it became known as the Treasure of Blythe Road. Mathers then recruits a young man named Aleister Crowley into the Cabal, a promising magician who shares Mathers' desire to stray away from tradition and use controversial techniques to enhance their craft. Mathers wishes to develop a magic work kit so magic will be easier to use and more accessible to others, like how it was intended back in the time of the Pure World. But turns out Mathers managed to find out Aleister's future unborn daughter would die as a result of the sparks and spray, using a magic breaker to protect himself from it, while not telling Aleister anything. Aleister did manage to find out through his other mentor, Alan Bennett, leading Aleister to declare war upon the Golden Dawn. Aleister stole a magic breaker in 1900 at the Battle of Blythe Road, as he proceeded to destroy the Cabal by murdering Westcott and Mathers with a magic breaker, with it disappearing into thin air, one day returning at some point in the future. Aleister then swore he would do whatever it took to destroy magic, as he began to research the long-forgotten secrets of the science side. While the original Golden Dawn came to an end, many other cabals which emulated their style were born, claiming to be its true successor, therefore making the Golden Dawn one of the most influential magic cabals of all time. Aleister would also release the Magic Work Kit, and was regarded as the greatest magician in history. But in 1904, he travelled to Egypt with his wife Rose, and managed to contact the dormant holy guardian angel Aiwaz. Aiwaz spoke to Aleister, and these words which he told him would become the Book of the Law, a magic grimoire which marks the end of the Aeon of Osiris and the beginning of the Aeon of Horus. Wait, that's me! Meaning the Christian age has come to an end, and now humanity can enter an era of enlightenment via the new religion known as Thelema, with Aleister acting as the prophet. Aleister's first daughter Lilith died as a baby as predicted, leading to the divorce of Aleister and Rose. Then in 1909, Aleister conducted some source magic rituals in the desert to pursue knowledge, and ends up summoning Kronzon to the world, with the demon sneaking away by hiding in a piece of papyrus, never to be seen again. And in the same year, Laura Stewart became the Archbishop of the Anglican Church. Yep, she's actually older than the Queen of England. Aleister then worked as a double agent spy during World War I for the British government. He then moved to the island of Sicily with his followers and some kids to see if he could create artificial espers, as the brain during adolescence goes through significant development thanks to puberty, meaning it would be Aleister's chance to see if he could create espers. Aleister's controversial experiments and actions made him a hated figure by both normal people and magicians, the latter of which branded him as the ultimate traitor for pursuing science. Aleister was later kicked out of the Abbey of Thelema as he continued to cause trouble in his native England, managing to evade capture from the Anglican Church despite his age. Finally, in 1947, Aleister was successfully hunted down by the church, meeting his end as he died at the hands of the Anglicans. Or at least that's what everyone in the world believed. Aleister actually faked his own death by stabbing himself with his magic, as he swore he would turn his blade upon himself after cursing the entire Golden Cabal and himself to a life of failure. Now that's some next level edge. Aleister, however, did truly intend to die, but none other than the goddamn frog doctor known as Heaven Chancellor happened to be in England at the exact same time this was happening, and saved Aleister from death. Heaven Chancellor then built a life support device to extend Aleister's life by 2,000 years, and the tube would also mask his true identity to anyone that would see him. Aleister then decides he will create a giant city modelled off the Abbey of Thelema, using Tokyo as a location due to it being devastated by the US bombing campaign in World War II, as he and Heaven Chancellor purchased a third of the land, thus founding Academy City. Aleister also used a mysterious power known as the Archetype Controller to split the world between magic and science, forming the modern science side, in an attempt to eventually restore the pure world and destroy all magic and the phases. The archetype controller also influenced the general consensus of the world to believe that human experimentation is completely justified, and yes, you should send your kids to become students as lab rats to this completely fine city. Academy City also gained its independence as a city-state with separate governance to Japan, kinda like how the Vatican is considered a separate country to Italy despite its location in Rome. Aleister then recruited the prominent family of scientists known as the Kiharas to work as his close associates and help progress science decades ahead of the rest of the world, establishing Academy City as a modern-day superpower. Aleister used data on the legendary Japanese psychic Mifune Chizuko, who was probably a gemstone, in order to create Academy City's first successful artificial Esper, known as the Beginning Child. But since her ability was too difficult to control, Aleister froze her in cryo and locked her away, with Aleister being unrecognizable in the tube, and the magic side thinking he's just some random dude using an alias, as Aleister was known as magic's biggest traitor. Aleister and the representatives of the magic side agreed to sign the Magic Science Treaty, meaning the two sides won't fight each other or interfere with each other's affairs. So Academy City won't try and research magic, and the magic side won't use anything that's considered modern or high-tech. The two other superpowers of the world also took note of the potential of Academy City's Espers, since they could be used as military weapons. And so, in the 1970s, the Soviet Union and the USA launched their own top-secret Esper development programs, with the US version being known as the Stargate Project. However, both of these attempts resulted in failure, as both countries were unable to create successful Espers like in Academy City. Despite the Magic Science Treaty still existing, 20 years ago, before the start of Index, the Anglican Church and Academy City collaborated in secret in order to try and develop a successful Esper Magician hybrid, as it's forbidden for an Esper to use magic, with the punishment being exploding internal organs and risk of death. These experiments were unsuccessful. That is until Tsuchimikado Motoharu was born and grew up, where they finally developed him into a magic-using Esper. By creating a city full of Espers, Aleister hoped he would be able to attract the future wielder of Imagine Breaker, as a city full of supernatural powers would allow Imagine Breaker to easily reveal itself with its power to nullify supernatural abilities, whether magic or science. That's what exactly happened, as Kamijo Toma was born 15 years ago before the start of Index. Notably, he was born with a special right hand, which brings him a lot of bad luck during his young life, leading most people to hate him, resulting in his parents sending him to Academy City, where they believe he would be more accepted in a place where they are not as superstitious, and can perhaps analyze his bad luck. Aleister actually modelled the city based on Toma, so that Toma could act as a hero, fighting opponents so that Aleister's plan could come ever closer. Then the Anglican Church and Academy City made another deal, as the church now have a girl called the Index Librorum Prohibitorum, who can read lots of toxic magical books called grimoires, but her memory apparently needs to be erased every year, otherwise her head will blow up. Or maybe it's because they are scared of her becoming a magic god. Well, that's just a conspiracy, I guess. Since Index is such a valuable asset, as many magicians want her knowledge, the Anglicans propose erasing her memory within Academy City, where there won't be any rogue magician groups trying to kidnap her. Aleister Crowley agrees, as Style Magnus, Kanzaki Kari, and Index arrive in Academy City as a certain magical index begins. If you'd like to see more Toaru content, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I'll be doing a full timeline of the entire Toaru franchise. Make sure you check out my other Index videos on screen right now for more awesome content. Until next time.